Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Roadies and Rebels, the podcast. My guest on this show is my buddy Dave Hines, who's an interesting guy, to say the least. He's a musician, great musician. He's also a voiceover actor and a technical producer on Steve Harvey's show. He's worked with iHeart Radio and Clear Channel for a long time and really knows that world. And I'm lucky enough that he's part of the Roadies and Rebels podcast team as a co-producer. Now, I'm going to warn you up ahead, if you think my voice is ragged before, wait till you hear me trying to interview a voiceover expert. Let's get doing it, Jasper. Hit it.
Gossip for some is a real event. They strap on and button up their Sunday best. Stand straight and smile and do all the rest. Don't laugh, she found me this ridiculous line of bullshit. It came to rest and said, oh, somehow I got fast.
Dave Hines, welcome to the Roadies and Rebels podcast. It's so good to have you here. Finally.
It's good to be here. Yeah.
I'm glad to be here. Anyone listening, Dave helps me a lot on this thing, and yet we have yet to pull it together for the two of us to do an episode.
That's the whole thing of like, I'm trying to help out, so the last thing I'm going to do is, what this show needs is more of me.
Well, I hadn't thought of it that way before. Yeah, we should. Yeah, who are you? How'd you get here? Well, that kind of takes me into my first question of, what the hell do you do? And I only base that on, you were nice enough to be in my Just 100 Questions book, which I'm so appreciative. And when we got doing the page, it was, okay, everybody sees him how he is now. And this is, probably can't get it. This is the page.
That's me.
And I was blown away. And I thought, I don't know this guy at all. I thought I did. We met at NAMM. And I know you're friends with Ash and Michelle at Heil Sound. But give me a little background of how you got into this scene.
Well, because you basically sound like my agent. Every agent I've ever had is, what is it that you do?
Explain.
And I'll be honest with you, I'm still kind of figuring out, Greg. I think that I've always been an entertainer at heart, and I've struggled with, on the talent side, being an entertainer versus an artist, because I always looked at artists as people who didn't really have to answer to anybody, yet they also had to answer to everybody.
Good point. Well put.
For an artist, a company doesn't make them famous or well received. It's the public, always. And there will always be some company that gets an artist that the public chooses out there in front of them.
I could see that.
So I looked at that, but then also being an entertainer, I grew up in the Ozarks, in Branson and Springfield, Missouri. So my early ideas of entertainment, I would watch the music shows. I would go see all those, and all those performers lived in my neighborhood.
In Branson. Yeah, that was a huge scene. I don't know if it still is.
It really was. And it's grown. We were there during the boom of the 80s and 90s when a lot of these shows started coming in, and then some more famous people like Roy Clark, would set up theaters.
Andy Williams was a big Blue Moon Theater, was it?
Yeah, I actually got to play a few shows in there because I started out playing music, started out on the trombone when I was young. I actually took that all the way through to college and worked on jazz performance in college and played with the Army band between the...
You were in the Army then?
Yes.
This is what I...
Yeah, I did do... The majority of my time's National Guard in the 135th Army Band. So
got it.
I was
in Missouri.
able to... Yes, and I was still able to do a lot of professional things, and do the Army musician thing one weekend a month, and then would every once in a while go pick up an active duty spot for a few weeks here or there, just the normal stuff, but I wasn't like off living on a base.
Okay. I was never sure on that.
But I got that whole experience of the military and also playing. And then in there, I would just do just about anything with a microphone. So I sing, I play as many instruments as I could figure out how to get a gig playing. So if you can blow into it, I probably tried to earn a paycheck with it.
That explains the trombone in your picture, right?
Yeah, there's a couple back there somewhere. Yeah, that particular picture is from a band that I used to play with called 70 Funk, and that was a reunion show. And so, when you are the utility guy, and that may be one way I would describe myself.
Absolutely. I could see that.
You need to be able to do a little bit of everything. And I always wanted to be in the show or a part of the show. And so I figured out that I wasn't going to make every audition. I wasn't going to get in the band every single time. I wasn't going to book the part as an actor every single time. And so I wanted to do this, and I didn't want to have to go toss newspapers or something to be able to afford to live. So I kind of coupled the interest of learning how all this gear worked because, coming up in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, the technology, you needed to know how to do it.
Sure.
It wasn't going to do much for you other than just create a huge mess.
Yeah.
And so I
In the
figured out-
weeds, we call that.
Yeah. So I figured out how to turn all this stuff on and use it to make my own things. And then I found a lot of community in being able to help other people out. So I kind of have been balancing this teeter-totter of being an entertainer and a performer and making everybody else's stuff better.
That makes sense with you. I mean, I can see that from the little bit been around you and knowing, what you do currently and all that, which we'll get into. But that...
Yeah, and that's what I think but as a performer also trying to make everything better, because I also looked at what the key talent, as we might call them, the famous people. I've watched what that is, what that looks like, and the strain that's on there, and I'm not going to say that I wouldn't take that up if it were offered to me.
You would.
But at the same time, or that I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I'd definitely take that up. But at the same time, what makes those greats great are everyone else around them. And
Absolutely.
if I'm really wanting to be involved in creating something and something that didn't exist before, then I may have to accept my role is not the famous person. And some people I've found don't want to be involved if they're not the key. And I figured out that I'd rather be invited to the party even if I wasn't at the top of the guest list.
Well
and
put,
that's kind of
well put,
how
yeah.
I found myself here.
And I think there's also, with that logic, there's some longevity that comes with it.
Absolutely.
Your guy may flame out and you're going to go find another man or woman,
Right.
to
And I
attach
think
yourself to and help,
That was the other thing, too, was realizing that I wanted a family. And now, I have a little boy who is 20 months old. So
Wow.
I definitely took the long road around to having a family.
But you got there. You got there.
But we got there, and honestly, I was able to, when my son was born, look back and be like, wow, I did all the stuff that you can do when you don't have kids, and then some.
Oh, yeah.
And so now it's like, well, this is the chance. This is the opportunity. And luckily, I've been working in my career field so long that I've been able to land myself in gigs that allow me to be the dad that I want to be, but also not have to stop working in the industry that I love.
I think it's a tough life for those artists. I really do. I mean, you can say all sorts of snide things about them, and we've all been around them, but that ain't easy. And I think, the path you're on is a smart one.
And I think I've had the chance to be in the room alone with a lot of those people.
Yeah,
And
likewise, yeah.
Not in the sense of, we're going to let you have some time with Nikki Sixx.
Right. You're working.
It's more just like, we need to do something in about 45 minutes. Everybody else is busy doing stuff. I'm going to go grab some tacos. You want me to get you something? And then we're just sitting there eating tacos in the room. And it is interesting to watch them wrestle with being a real person and then being the entity that they are. And you realize that, like, wow, the majority of their headspace is not used up on creativity. A lot of it is used up on the minutia of being who they are, just so they can keep making their art.
Yep. Yeah,
So
it's a tough one. I'm not sure I'd want to. And you and I kind of started out similar. I wanted to, I was going to play music and bands, and boy, I'm glad I wasn't good enough. In my case, because now that I have, I don't want to talk about me, but been around this for so many years, and just like you, seen those guys eating a taco,
Yeah.
It is not an easy path, and I have huge respect.
And by the way, with Nikki, I had to go get the tacos because if he went into the taco place, he'd be stuck in there taking selfies for 45 minutes, and he wouldn't get to eat.
Yeah. Hey, well, it's a good time. Explain about Nikki, and that's through iHeart, right?
So
let's get back to the...
to my career.
Let's not talk about my failures. Let's talk
the radio part. The radio part of my career started kind of when I was in college. I was on the college radio station, and then I started out at a group of stations in Springfield, Missouri that were KWTO, AM and FM, and KTXR, and that was the old Rock 99. And so that was what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a rock and roll DJ.
Rock 99.
Got to do overnights there. I moved over. After about 3 or 4 years there, I got picked up by US 97, which was Clear Channel at the time. So
that was big.
5 stations there. Clear Channel, went over to Clear Channel, which then became iHeart. So I've been with that company in some form since 2002.
Okay.
In 2014, I think, I'd been a program director in radio. I'd been on-air talent in multiple formats. I've been a production director. I've done all the things that you can do in radio other than like sales in the local markets. And some things went on in my life, and it was kind of like it was time to hit the reset button and just go out, and if I could do anything I wanted to, what was I going to do? Mm-hmm. And I decided to move to Los Angeles and picked up in the middle of my career and basically told them, hey, I'm going to go do this, and if you guys don't want me to work for you anymore, that's okay, but just so you know, I'm going to be there. And they were pretty cool about it, and they said, well, we'd like to have you keep doing your show on US 97. So I did that for the first couple of years.
From LA?
Being out. Yeah, from Hines in Hollywood. And so that was fun.
Wait. Say that again.
Hines in Hollywood.
I love it.
And got to do that for a couple of years. And then at the same time was working with some of the network shows because I was actually broadcasting out of Premier Networks studios in Sherman Oaks instead of over in Burbank where the iHeart stations are.
I see.
And so I was kind of around. I wasn't around like the local LA stations, so I couldn't like worm my way onto one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I happened to be around Premier Radio Networks, which is the largest syndicator of audio programming. So many big shows are on there. And I started working kind of behind the scenes, screening calls for Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie, and then worked on a show called The Rendezvous as an editor. And then 6 Cents with Nikki Sixx had an opening. And
his radio show
went in there. Yeah, he was doing a radio show. It was a radio show. We were on around about 100 stations at night, and we would do multiple versions of the show with the music. So Nikki would talk about his stuff, but then different, an active rock station would be playing the active rock songs and classic rock and vice versa. And so all of that together was a big production piece to be able to get 4 different shows simultaneously out every day was a feat. And the team that I worked with on that show was unbelievably talented. Mm-hmm. Some of the best guys, a guy named Elijah Sabunia and Brett Brady, like just really fantastic guys. Mm-hmm. And then being around that show for a little while longer, eventually I got to be on the mic with Nikki and his co-host Jen Marino every once in a while. So still just kind of teeter-tottering both sides of that.
Yeah. Well, we should point out Nikki Sixx with Motley Crue.
Mm-hmm.
Bass player.
Yes.
Huge.
Guy that wrote all the songs. And a really interesting, really fun guy. Probably, and I think he'd be okay with me saying this, he's perpetually 15 years old. And
I think you have to be.
Which can be terrifying.
Yeah.
But he was always so, and we'll go on, I'll tell you what I'm doing now, but at the time on that, just to reflect, it was always so fun to get to be around. Nikki was cool, but everybody that came in was like so excited to meet him, or they were already friends with him. And so just kind of standing around and somebody asks me a question to kind of pull me into the conversation, and the next thing I know, I realize, like, oh, I'm now out of my league because Nikki Sixx, Zach Wilde, and Ozzy Osbourne are talking about the road. And I'm like, yeah, I drove past, the club that I played at in that town was right off the back end of that parking lot. Right, the parking lot of the dome that you guys played in, I played in that club where your roadies were drunk.
And I had to get that van parked at that loading dock. Okay, it was a door.
It was a door.
It was the kitchen door.
They had to move the dumpster.
Yeah, they had to move. I had a crew. No, I
grease
didn't.
day.
I'm lying. And with those guys, you can't bullshit them.
No.
Even if you think you can, you can't.
They've forgotten more interesting stories. And so... But what I realized is in those situations, and this is a thing that I always try and tell people who are working on the tech side, is just really try and keep your cool in those situations, because you're going to want to geek out and ask stupid questions or whatever. Sure. You don't need to clam up most of the time. Yeah. They're not, because then it feels weird, like, why is this guy just standing here? But also realizing, like, how to relate to them. And the main thing is when you talk about what you do know, and what regular life is like, most of the time they're really excited to talk about just normal things and mundane. Not talk about an album that they wrote 22 years ago.
Right.
That they have thoroughly answered all the questions on.
They've talked it to death.
Yeah. So after 6th Sense, that contract was up, and what I wasn't allowed to talk about knowing was the fact that Motley Crue was going to play again. Yeah. And that was kind of, all those things happened together, and I definitely don't know any of the inside baseball on what happened. All I know was that show was done, and that's the entertainment business. And I was lucky enough that with iHeart and Premiere that there was an opening on the Steve Harvey morning show.
Right.
Boy, that is a breakneck change in format and everything.
Describe Steve Harvey. He's a comedian, right? But a host.
He is. And, Steve Harvey, one of the kings of comedy, host of Family Feud and many shows, and is hilarious. He always does what he says he's going to do. He is absolutely professional when it's time. So when it's, hey, we're live, we're on, he is on. He is Steve Harvey. He doesn't fold up and get mad or throw tantrums, nothing like that. His time is valuable. He does a lot of things. Yep. And I've had a great time with him because I've respected that immensely with him. And man, when you can just, I want him to be able to sit down at the microphone, and I'm the technical producer for the show. So basically everything, I'm responsible for everything once the words hit the microphones. Mm-hmm. So once that mic is activated, then it's mine until it hits the audience's ears. It's my responsibility. So he will always give you what you need. The show is great, but when you can calm down, and I want him to sit down, put his headphones on, and be Steve Harvey. I don't want him thinking about, I need to do this with the mic, or don't do that. No. Yeah. Let's just get him down there. Let this show be this show.
You be you.
Yeah, I will. You tell me, as a producer, I feel like my role is whoever the stakeholders are, the host or whoever is paying for the show, whoever the boss is. They tell me what kind of show they want to make. The other thing is you're going to get gigs where you know enough to get in the front door of like, okay, we can hire this guy. Mm-hmm. But very quickly, you're going to need to get up to speed and get in the current with what's happening, whether it's a tour or a show or anything. And so what I found is that homework of figuring out, like, if I look around the studio and I see a piece of gear that I don't know how it works, you can bet that I'm going to be in the owner's manual that night, because
take that thing.
Because invariably the next time that piece of gear is turned on, it's going to fail. And we're going to be right out from broadcast time. Yeah.
And then when that happens, all you hear is, Dave! They don't go, Bill?
Yeah.
Bob? Sarah? They go, where's Dave?
Yeah. And it is it's a thing that I've actually come to really love.
That is huge, that trust and that confidence. And you're the guy. I mean, I tease about Dave, but it's Dave is the calming voice, and he knows when he hears your voice, we're good. And if we're not good, he's going to make it good. It's massive. It's massive. Then you do voiceover work too, right?
I do.
Let's talk about that.
That's the other thing of just like gotta keep rent paid, and
there is that.
Kinda, you look up one day and realize like, I'll be damned, I haven't had a real job since the Army, and even there I was in the band.
I was in the Army band.
Like, I think I worked one summer at a heating and air conditioning warehouse, so that was probably the last real work that you got out of me from that standpoint.
It's just the way it goes. I can relate.
But the voiceover stuff, that kind of came in tandem with radio, and of course you're going to hear every single radio guy's like, oh, I do voiceovers as well.
There it is again.
Boy, that is a crazy business, and it is definitely being an actor. And there are definitely tiers with that, just like being an actor. And I realized that being in radio had given me a lot of bad habits that were not going to work well as a commercial voice actor or as an actor on cartoons or in video games and things like that, because it just sounded too radio-ish.
Oh, okay. Right. You were not trying too hard, but you were just, like you say, just a radio voice.
Yeah, a lot of it is the push. On radio, I would always say, like, I was Dave, but turned up about 25%.
Yeah, I could see that.
And so that's a little louder, a little more animated, a little chewing on words, maybe more than you would. But it was almost like, it's like doing a dance. If you're doing the waltz, you probably shouldn't do merengue steps in the middle of it.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I can't do either.
I was
too busy playing the trombone.
That's right.
To learn how to dance. But
musicians are the worst dancers. I can tell you that.
I am. But the voiceover stuff, I had to get some training to work with a coach who has coached the best of the best named Nancy Wolfson, which I would highly recommend her. If you want to do voiceovers at all, start out with training, because there's a good chance you have, I don't want to say you have no idea, but I had been working in the business for over a decade before I really decided, like, I'm going to do voiceovers and, the ones that you make a lot of money for, and realized what I didn't know. And I was closer than a lot of people are.
Right.
And so much of it is acting training and little things that happen in commercials. And then we get into video games and cartoons that also branched out into on camera. And as different as it feels, it's really the same stuff. The same agents that I have will send me voiceover auditions and on camera auditions here and there. So
now, what's an on camera? I mean, part in a show or something?
Yeah, part on a show. I've auditioned for, I say up for, like, as if they were, like, seeking me out. I got to audition for a couple pilots this year. I don't think anything's really panned out. I did, I was in a Walmart commercial with Walton Goggins, the Who Knew. I think I was actually wearing this hat.
You're in that commercial?
Yeah, the two where
I hate that
where the two guys are fighting over the backgammon game. And you might not have seen my cut yet, because I talked to him,
I'll be checking that out, because I hate that ad.
For
reasons unrelated to you being in it, trust me.
But, so I've done all that. Voiceovers, like the acting stuff really comes up when video games. I've done a couple of the bigger ones, the Forza Motorsport, the car racing game. I'm one of the track announcers, so you can
I never
hear
thought
in
of
the
that
background,
in those
just
games.
little things like that. And then also another series of games that's one of my favorites. The first game in the series was called Manual Samuel, and then Helheim Hassel, and then The Holy Gosh Darn. And it's this Danish it's a Danish company called Perfectly Paranormal, and their games are so fun. They're highly entertaining because they have that interesting version of Danish humor that's dark and silly at the same time.
Yeah, The Forest.
And I watch
a lot of those shows.
Oh yeah. And these guys are hilarious, and the games are full of jokes. And, doing voiceover for video games, you're going to be in there. You got to be good at dealing with directors and taking direction and
I can't
going
imagine.
back and forth.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be in there for a while.
Yeah.
I played a character that had many, many, many lines of dialogue. He says something at almost every achievement during the game that you get as a player. So there was a lot of stuff.
Do you have to know about video games to be?
It helps.
Yeah.
Just for context, but no. And sometimes, what you're doing, like the character doesn't know that they're in a game.
Yeah,
so
right, of course.
You're going to be...
The idea is that you don't know.
You're just trying to be the character.
Yeah.
But, Balder, that I played in Helheim Hassel, I played a glam rock version of the Norse god Balder.
It's you.
He sings a song. He does all kinds of stuff. And he's, just this crazy voice. Let's just bookmark a little thing here in voiceover, and especially with cartoons. The thing that'll have happen to me more often than anything is people are like, oh, I can do all these voices. And they do imitations and spot on.
You mean one person can do multiple...
Yeah, and they'll do
right.
spot-on impersonations of cartoon characters that we all know. It's not so much about being able to do all these voices. It's what characters can you create?
Right, sure.
Because being able to bring that character to life, when there's a good chance you're going to get it when it's just a drawing, just an animatic. Nobody else has ever voiced it before.
That's a good point. Right. You've got to find the soul, but
And a very important thing that you learn quickly, especially if you're going to do video games, is it ain't going to be 25, 30 minutes like a commercial session where you're in and out, you do a few takes, and bloom. You may have 5,000 lines of dialogue to do.
Jeez.
It may take 4 or 5 days.
You're in it.
Yeah. And you need to be able to, if I send an audition, it is with an implicit contract that I can, if you hire me, I will show up and be on mic and do that voice all through its paces until you tell me you're done. I can do that all day. I can do that all night, unless there's certain things where, the union helps us out on like screaming and things like that. But my mindset as the actor, as the voiceover talent, is I can go in here and turn on this all day. It's as simple as doing 12-bar blues. Like, we got to come in here and we can just turn fire all day long. Yeah, because, there's all these different things where, like, maybe I think the character's going to do this a certain way, but there's other stuff going on in the game that I don't know about.
Yeah.
And so, he's going to be like, I almost did the Norwegian accent, but I'm not going to.
Oh, come on.
But no, I can't do a good one. But he's, he'll be like, he's actually thinking about this. So what if you talk about the fact that he wants to eat pie? Or what if, he wants to eat this pie? What are you talking about? Like something unrelated, but you realize like, oh, he's not talking to the dog in this situation. He's actually looking out the window thinking of something else. God, but the words don't say that, So being able, and the only reason I bring up that example is, if I'd been looking at my script and figured out I'm going to say all this stuff like this, and this is how this character is going to do this, and blah, blah, blah. And then they're like, but what if he says it in a completely different way for a completely different reason? You need to be able to have that voice in there. You need to inhabit that character.
Yeah, and you got to be able to give it a shot.
If you're doing a voice that strains it, or like a screamy voice, it's probably not going to work out real well.
Yeah.
And one of the worst things that can happen is in the middle of a session, or you they, take 10, and then you come back and they play you the reference from the very beginning line you did
Sure.
and the last line you did. And if they don't match up or sound like the same character, I've never had that happen, but I've had a friend tell me that happened to him one time, and it was in the course of him telling me, don't do voices that you can't do all day.
That you can't replicate and do all day.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was watching, there's a new documentary out about Eddie Murphy. It's pretty good. And he talks about, and I know he's not really a voiceover person per se, but, on Shrek.
But he's everything.
He's everything. But anyway, he was talking about doing the voiceover for Donkey in Shrek. And, everybody just loves that voice and that part, I'm a donkey on the edge. And he talked about how hard that was because of the screaming. He said screaming, which I didn't notice, but maybe he just meant really projecting. He said that was one of the hardest, parts he's ever done was the voiceover.
Well, you think about, with video games or cartoons, every noise and grunt and sound that character makes has got to come out of you. And in cartoons, I know a lot of times they'll call it the Walla library. And the director will just be like, you're in the character. And then it'll be like, okay, get punched. Get punched harder. All right, now throw a punch. Now we're going to swing a sword, swing it the other way. And they want to hear all this stuff. Jump,
but
exertion,
they don't want to hear. They don't want to hear
exertion.
the sword. They want to hear your reaction to the sword.
Right.
Yeah.
They'll put the sword sound.
Yeah. There's
going to
be a.
Yeah. It's not like whoosh.
Yeah. I got to do that too.
But you think about, and so what leads to is practicing at home and just not basically using the microphone as a mirror, so to speak, where I'll record. I'm not looking at what I'm doing or anything, but I'm like, what's it going to sound like? How's it really going to sound if this guy gets punched in the gut versus punched in the chest?
Yeah.
And you may have cues for both those things. There's a lot going on in there, and that's how you wind up with lines and lines and lines and lines.
That's really interesting. I had no idea. I suppose the saving grace is that unlike a script or a TV show, you don't have to memorize this stuff.
No, it's all sitting on a copy stand in front of you.
I mean, that would be a deal breaker, I would think.
Oh, yeah.
I got to do this. Well, then that's a good time to talk about, because I know you want to talk about AI.
Oh.
Come on, bring it, brother. I want to hear this. I'm fascinated by your take on this.
It's really interesting because I've had a lot of thoughts about this. And even, the company that I work for has taken a very strong pro-human stand.
Nice.
And I love that. I think it feels like right now for someone who is a non-famous actor and voiceover talent. So, and I'm not trying to say that to put myself down, but just to be like, I don't have people saying like, oh, if you drop this guy, we're not.
We got to get
the show
Hines
anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not at that level yet.
Yeah, you're working
towards that, but I feel like AI. You can sit there and be scared of it, and there are plenty of things to do because essentially this new computer came into our workspace and started doing parlor tricks. It happened to visual artists and digital artists where they're like, wait a minute, all this stuff that I went to school for, somebody can just make this in a heartbeat?
Yep.
Well, they can. It's not quite the same, but then technology will catch up and it'll look exactly the same.
Pretty damn close.
AI voices, the thing that's driving me insane right now is there's so much content that I think might be a real person, and then I'll hear them say something like Atlanta, Georgia. And I'm like, oh, that's AI. And
busted.
I'll cuss a lot,
Yeah.
And so it is frustrating when it's good, but I really don't think that they've used up all of this money and tech just to replace voiceover people and actors. I think that what's happening is that's an easy way for the general public to see, like, hey, this is real. It can do stuff. Look at this amazing future technology. But at the end of the day, I think that I have, it's caused me to sit and think, like, why do I do what I do?
Oh, it's got to make you just think, what's going on? Like, reevaluate your whole
It makes me think about, like, I want to make things that didn't exist before.
Yeah.
If AI is going to come take my gigs, I can't stop it any more than I can stop another guy who buys himself a decent mic and gets a quiet room, So
that's a good point.
I just have to be Dave.
Yeah.
And all I can do is just continue to make things that I make and do it as good as I can. And I feel like I'm finding myself as a consumer of entertainment. I like the AI stuff, like, oh, that's cool, but I don't give it doesn't have power. It doesn't hold anything, because when I see the picture that was taken by the person who really saw something, or I hear the vocal performance from someone who was really feeling it, that is, AI is just going to copy those things that have happened in history. It's not going to feel an emotion and do it.
Of course.
It's not going to be Mary Clayton singing "Gimme Shelter," wailing and voice cracking. And
cracking, right.
AI might steal that and put it into something so that it feels like that, but it's just a facsimile. Like her going in there in the house coat and cranking out that vocal, like that's what I think about when I think about making this shit.
Yeah.
And I'm going to keep going at it like that. I want the human connection. And if AI is out here doing all these things, that means I have to work that much harder to be me. Not to beat AI, but just to be me. And that might mean that there aren't as many auditions to do for local radio commercials or this and that. So it means, all right, well, I want to make something. I got tired of all these sleep podcasts that were voiced by AI, so I decided to do a proof of concept on a new one.
What is a sleep? What do you mean? Explain that.
Podcast that people will listen to with the express purpose to fall asleep.
You're shitting me. There's such a thing?
Absolutely there is. It's huge.
Oh,
and there
God.
are a lot
we're
of
in the wrong
things.
We're in the wrong thing here, my friend. I can put people to sleep.
Well, and maybe they're using the show for that. This interview.
There aren't that many of them.
Very well. Those three people, they're going to fall asleep, and they know us too. That's
And this is what we meant to do.
The show.
Oh God, I had no idea there was.
I wanted to, in light of AI, I thought about, well, what if I did something where I just read a bunch of AI stories? And so I had AI write some stories, and I'm like, these are very derivative of stories I've read before. And part two, it's like, and they're also just total crap.
Yeah.
So I thought, why don't I write stuff? And so I started writing and working on this podcast, and I kind of did a little proof of concept just to see, like, is this what I want to do? And it's called Just in Space. And it is a character he is the short version, he is a starship captain who is not famous, not, glory bound or anything. He's just a regular dude. And the communications technology that they use in the future has this weird worm that allows it to actually broadcast backwards in time. And so when you turn on the show of Just in Space, you are listening to Justin Dexter kind of do his daily diary about what's going on in the spaceship. He knows he's trying to speak back to people in the past, but that's the premise of that. If you're getting tired, just
I'm nodding off.
I got you.
I think you're
That's what
onto
we're
something.
doing. But there's just a few episodes up. But if you do go check that out, there will be more coming in.
Now, where do people find this?
Anywhere you get your podcasts.
Similar to the Roadies and Rebels.
So anywhere,
Just but they should not listen to it while they're driving.
No,
right, because they could fall asleep and then.
And there's some other little Easter eggs in there that we can
see. This is why you're because you're creative, and that's something that AI can't steal outwardly.
AI is probably not going to try and work their way up as a professional trombonist, only to wind up working as a technical producer on a comedy-based morning show.
I would agree with that. And they don't know where to get that outfit. So
that's true.
Clothing,
Orleans, by the way.
I love it. The clothing
Marry
alone.
a girl from New Orleans, and you'll have access to all kinds of interesting couture.
It's too late. Although me and Claudia spent a lot of time in New Orleans.
So you've seen suits like that before. You just didn't know which store to go in.
I've seen it at all hours. I think we're done here, my friend. This is cool.
Cool. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for doing this. And I'll probably call you and say, help me with this other part.
Oh yeah.
We got to get caught up on some other things, but this has been really cool.
Man, this is fun.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Go take care of your family.
Will do.
Take care, buddy.
Have a good one, bro.
Bye.